Thank you, Josh. And a hearty mazel tov and a thank you, a deep, deep bow of gratitude to you, to Larry, and to Amanda and Susan. Really, there aren't enough words to say thank you, so I'll just leave it at that. It's wonderful to be here together and to share a few words of Torah, hopefully to help us frame our sit. So just for half a minute, I would like to invite you to find a comfortable way to sit or stand if you're standing, or lying down if you're lying down, and just feel the pressure of whatever is meeting your body. The chair against your bottom and legs, back perhaps, feet on the floor, hands on the lap or touching each other, just to sense that sensation of pressure. Not squinting in your focus, as it were, to find it, but just letting that sense of pressure come to you, to your receptive awareness. We become aware that this is what it feels like to be seated. And invite yourself just to settle in a little bit. You might already want to find your anchor object for awareness. You can stay with the sense of pressure. Or you might open to bodily sensation wherever it calls your attention. Heat and coolness. Tightness. You might feel the sensations of breathing as you open to sensations in the body. Breathing in and out might become your anchor. If you're used to practicing with sound as your anchor, that's fine too. It's coming and going. And all of it as we receive. The ears like big antenna, or the awareness like a wide receptor. Just sit for a few breaths, just settling. So I'd like to begin. Keep your attention, I'd say at least 50% on your physical sensations as I speak and teach briefly. I'd like to start with a verse from Song of Songs, chapter 5, verse 2. And the beginning of it reads, as you see here, Ani yeshena v'libi er, kol dodi dofek pitchi li. I was asleep, but my heart was awake. I heard the sound of my lover saying, open for me. So let's look at the first four words. Ani yeshena v'libi er. I was asleep, but my heart was awake. Commonly in spiritual circles, if someone tells you they're asleep, it usually means something negative. They're not paying attention to their lives. Maybe they're a bit numbed out or just unable to wake up to what's true. Ordinarily, we talk about wanting to wake up in our lives, to wake up to what's true. So it might be surprising to learn that there are Jewish commentaries that understand this verse from a very positive point of view. Song of Songs is this gorgeous collection of erotic love poetry, but the rabbis, God bless them, interpreted it as an allegory of the love between God and the people Israel. But they also interpreted it as allegory between God and the individual, God and the soul. And that's how the medieval philosophers in particular read Song of Songs. These philosophers were contemplatives at heart. From a contemplative point of view, they said, this verse tells us something really important about how to engage in meditative practice, how to train the mind. Ani yeshena v'li bi'er. Ani means I, the pronoun I. Ani yeshena, my I was asleep. V'libi, my heart, and remember in Hebrew, the heart is the heart mind, not just a place of feeling, but a place of knowing. That faculty of knowing, my lave, libi, was awake. We might say, my small self went to sleep and the depth of my being awoke. This describes our meditation practice, ideally. When we meditate, the ani, the I needs to grow quieter and stiller, to go to sleep, if you will, in order for the lev, the knowing heart, the heart mind, awareness itself, that which connects us to our fundamental nature, to be awake. We need to put to sleep default consciousness, and in that way, we might hear the voice of our beloved knocking. We might hear the spirit that is calling our lev, God, our deeper, more fundamental awareness. In a nutshell, that's what we practice. Ani yeshena v'li bi'er kol do di dofek pichili. We collect the attention, we cultivate concentration, we follow our anchor object, whatever you've chosen, so that the I can just calm down. Because when we sit, we see how the I keeps throwing up stories of one sort or another. That's what the ani does. So in meditation, we just watch whatever the I throws up, thoughts and stories, whatever it is. We watch with as much friendliness as we can muster so that we can just note, yep, I see you, no problem. Come back to the anchor and relax out into where the more fundamental awareness might arise. Kol do di dofek. I hear that knocking, as it were. It's a subtler voice. So we start meditating. You know, anyone who's done this for 5 minutes knows how it goes. We recognize, my leg hurts, or a thought arises, what will I have for lunch? Or a memory, I can't believe I said that, or she said that, or I can't bear this feeling, or when will that Amazon package arrive? Or why can't I meditate? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I really honestly want to say it's no problem. The I is doing its job. The I is very much concerned with survival at base. It's not bad. It just is a bit overactive, and we need to train it to calm down. So with whatever arises, we can moment by moment give a light label to what arises if we like. And that helps us not get swept away. So when pain arises and we notice it, we can just notice it and label discomfort, discomfort. And when it's not so strong, we come back to the anchor. And then we remember, relax when you do that. We come back to the anchor instead of tightening on the anchor, which might be our default, like, oh, I'm going to stay on this anchor. It's not actually skillful. We come back to the anchor, but lightly. We want to relax there. Oh yeah, I've connected again with my anchor. Relax. That's what's going to allow over time that deeper voice to arise. So, but it's a thought, we start thinking, oh yeah, thinking. When we're not pulled so far, we come back to the anchor, connect with the breath, in, out, relax. And we do that over and over and over. The I will be fast at work doing what it does. But if we can train ourselves not to fight with it, it can all take place within the field of our care, and we might hear the beloved. Michael Fishbane, in his massive and masterful commentary to Song of Songs, paraphrases the philosophers on this verse. Ani yeshena v'li bi'er, he says, quote, the seeker experiences a dual state of consciousness. The surface mind, ordinarily concerned with the self and the ego, was stilled while in a deeper meditative awareness. In the latter state, one hears with an inner ear, end quote. And that's where our verse points. We hear with the inner ear, Kol dodi dofek, my beloved is calling. A deeper ground of awareness beckons. And once I settle that surface mind down a bit and its constant stories and demands regarding me and me and me, I might actually hear that calling. Fishbane writes, the self in meditative awareness suddenly feels the presence of the beloved, beseeching a more intensified indwelling, end quote. A more intensified indwelling. That's what we're after. And that's what we get when the ani calms down a bit, making space for the deeper ground of our being, the deeper ground of being itself. Kol dodi dofek, my beloved is calling, and what is it saying? Pitchili, relax, open for me. Make space within you for my dwelling. Ani yeshena v'libye kol dodi dofek pitchili. Ani yeshena v'libye kol dodi dofek pitchili. So Adi, you can please take down the screen share, and we are going to sit now for 10 minutes of practice with that intention. May my eye calm down. May the voice of my beloved be near. Come back to the anchor object. Contact there and relax. Relax to the best of your ability where there's a grip in the body or the mind. Just a little release where you are able. Back to the anchor. Make contact there and then relax. Ani yeshena v'libya kol dodido fake beat chili. Ani yeshena v'libya Kododido fake beat chili.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. We're going to conclude the sit in just a minute, and reminder that you're welcome to stay on to ask questions or share comments with Nancy. Before we do, we're going to provide an opportunity for those who want to recite the mourner's Kaddish in memory of someone today to do so. You're welcome to, invited to put in the chat the name of the person that you may be having in mind as you say Kaddish, and Adi has helpfully put the text up. You are welcome to unmute yourself as well for our daily cacophony of the mixed multitude of voices, and to join with me in saying Kaddish.
Shmei Rabba, Inu V'Kol Yisrael, B'Kala B'Zman Karib V'Ru, Shmei Rabba Bara, V'Ishtabach B'Cha'al V'Kaman V'Nasi, V'Tadar V'Talev V'Tla Shmei Kusha Rika, V'Lam and Kol V'Kivata V'Shir, Rosha Chata V'Nehemata V'Damiran V'Alma Yehesh Shlama Rabba Mishmael Ani Malinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amen. Oseh Shalom V'Olam Yoseh Shalom Malinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amen.
Ve'al kol Yoshai Tevel V'Ru Amen. Kol Yisrael
Amen.
Tevel V'Ru Amen.
Right. Thank you. If you're, again, you're welcome to stay with us for the next 10 or 15 minutes. If you're leaving us, we wish you shalom and hope to see you again tomorrow, same time and channel. Mark will be back in his usual chair. You get to see Mark on Tuesdays. He looks totally different. All right. Nancy, thank you so much. And if you have a question or comment, please feel welcome to put it in the chat. I lead off with the first one. But I was thinking, the image that came to mind as you were teaching on Shabbat just now, I was home with my 8-year-old, my youngest, and he had woken up early that morning, and we got home from shul and it was like noon and we weren't quite ready for lunch. And I just went to on my bed, I just took, the New Yorker or whatever I was reading. And he came up and he lay down and he was so tired that, he's 8 years old, he doesn't usually nap anymore, but he was lying down there and then he fell asleep. And it was one of these very precious moments, when you get to watch, you get to witness somebody falling asleep, right? And what happens in the relaxation in the body and just, the sweetness of that. But it came up for me as, this very insightful rendering of the pasuk that you offered of putting the self, the ani, to sleep. And I wonder if you want to say a little bit more about that, to unpack that image, and if that image that I just offered is helpful at all in doing so.
That's great. That's really beautiful and sweet and precious, and it goes fast. My kids are they don't do that anymore. So, it's very precious. Yeah, I think that I actually think that the ani exhausts us. That's certainly my experience. We're pretty much exhausted by our self-concern, which, as I say, it's not bad. It's built in. It's our survival instinct. We need to exist as separate beings and get all concerned about this confabulated sense of I and me. And on a conventional sense, of course, there is a separate self in a conventional sense of speaking. But it's rather exhausting. And I know you said as we began today, boy, do I need this sit. And I bet that came partly from a sense of how much the concerns of I, even when they were concerned with another, the concerns of the I, how do I do this? How do I make them feel better? How do I take care of, even if it's not simply I focused. And it's exhausting. And while we're going around and around and around with what we call the default mind, concerned with meeting all the needs of I, getting all the pleasant we can and staying away from all the unpleasant we're able to. That's what the I wants to do. It's rather exhausting. And while we're on that wheel, certainly in my experience, it is hard to hear the voice of my beloved, the voice of God reaching me. It's just, there are too many interferences. And so we just try to calm it down and see if we can relax. That's why relax is so important. It is very hard for us to relax, very hard. Either we relax and we're unconscious, right? Or I remember this teaching Sheila did once a long time ago with tea bags. Some of you might have been there for it. Sheila Peltz-Weinberg. She had two tea bags, two Tazo tea bags. One was awake and one was calm. And she said, either we're so awake that, we're like that, or we're so calm that we're asleep. But how do we bring awake and calm together? And I think that then someone else said, yeah, but what about the tea bag constant comment? But anyway, yeah. So, but anyway, that's really what we're trying to do. And relax. When we come back to the anchor object, our tendency is like, oh yeah, I was somewhere else. The breath, and it's like, whoa, that is really not going to let the beloved in there. It's too tight. So how do we come back to the anchor object, but relax so that we can actually see and feel like you saw your son just kind of melt into the metaphorical bed of mind, as it were. So thank you for that.
There was a question here about whether this interpretation was anchored in Talmud or Kabbalah or Chassidut, or is this a Nancy original?
Oh no, not a Nancy original. And I'm sorry if I wasn't clear about my attributions. I really learned this particular interpretation from Michael Fishbane in his magnificent commentary to Song of Songs, where he comments on 4 different levels, if you will, of interpretation. And the third level, his remez level, is very much rooted in the wisdom of the medieval Jewish philosophers. And he quotes a person I did not quote by name because this person was not known to me, but a particular medieval philosopher. In those quotes that I gave, it was Michael's paraphrasing that in a state of meditative awareness, the I goes to sleep, and then this greater consciousness wakes up. So no Nancy Flam originals here. Just a mouthpiece for minds and souls much greater than my own. Yeah, but very much, we tend to think of philosophy and Western philosophy as a wholly rational, deeply rational project. For the medieval Jewish philosophers, they were contemplatives. Many of them were Kabbalists as well. They were contemplatives, and their philosophy, Maimonides, you could say too, was a contemplative in ways. In order to open up the mind and see really what's happening in the whole body mind, it takes spaciousness and a constancy of looking. So contemplative with time, with time, give it some time, whatever the thought, how the thought then works in the body, what we see. And so that's a beautiful teaching from the medievals. I could find the actual, maybe I don't know where I can post that, but I'll look in my volume and attribute really B'Shem Omro. I don't want to say this was a minor medieval, I think Arabic sounding name, Jewish philosopher, because for all I know, this is a major philosopher with whom I'm just not familiar, but I can look up the name.
Okay. There was a great question, a practical question from Lester here. When thoughts come up, are there some that one might follow because it's a thought to be thought, so to speak? How do you know which to say thanks for sharing and which to pursue?
It's just beautiful. Well, it's a great question. And it depends on what our intention is for practice. If our intention is, those thoughts that I think have value that arise in my meditation, my intention is to allow them so that some insight may come, then that's great. Then you follow them. If your intention is to train the mind to come back to fundamental awareness, then in the great words of my teacher, Joseph Goldstein, no thought is worth thinking. Or he sometimes says, nothing is worth thinking about. And then he kind of scratches his head and says, well, nothing is worth thinking about. But anyway, nothing is worth thinking about. It's not the purpose of our meditation to think, actually. The purpose of I'm saying my meditation and what I'm offering here. Your intention for a particular sit may be different. As I say with no disrespect or judgment. If your intention when you sit down is to follow thoughts that you think have wisdom in them for you, then please go do that. It all depends on what the intention is. So as I was setting out the intention here, the intention with thought would be to notice when thought is happening and to notice by way of labeling. It's very helpful once we can see that we're thinking, thinking, or thought of, the seventh heaven in the present moment, thought of, tomorrow's lunch or today's lunch in the present moment, thought of, my nephew at his bar mitzvah in the present moment. Everything's happening in the present moment. We're trying to train ourselves to see what is actually happening in the present moment. What's it like now? Oh, thinking is like this. And it's not about going into the content. Now, I'll just say that's in general with mindfulness meditation. But we can certainly set aside periods of contemplation where we start, we make an anchor, we settle the mind, and then our intention is, whatever arises, if there's something there of value, I'm going to allow myself to sit with it, entertain it, allow it to entertain me. So it all comes back to intention.
I wonder, would it be fair to take that one more step to say the purpose in your practice is not, I don't meditate in order to make better decisions, right? I meditate to be more present with whatever decisions or whatever, deciding is one thing I do. Accepting is another thing that I do. There's lots of things that I do, but to be present and to be able to sit with whatever is in the moment. But that can be a bit of a, I don't know, misnomer, but a fault. Well, it's something that people might tell themselves about meditation practice is I'm doing it so that I can make better decisions, and that's not necessarily what it is, right? It's actually that's taking you away from really. It's more about sitting with whatever is.
Yes, I would say not in the moment, Josh. I would say it just may happen. You might find in your experience that if you dedicate to a serious meditation practice, that the effect will be that the mind knows when it's off the cushion, right? Off the meditation cushion, what's happening more clearly. Just as we practice that, what's happening now? What's it like now? What's this moment unfolding? that we will be clearer when we're off the mat, when we're in our lives, which will lead to greater clarity in decision making. Okay, that is to say, it's not what we're practicing in the moment of practice, but we might find that a fruit of the practice is that because we see more clearly, oh, how do I really feel about that? Oh, what are my motivations really toward that? Oh, what would be the consequences? Because we've clarified our mind, we can see more clearly through the practice of seeing of moment to moment. We may, in fact, become more skillful in making the decisions we have in our life. Yeah, but it's not the time while we're practicing. We might find, and I encourage you to check it out, that that's one of the fruits of practice.
One last tiny question. Who wrote the melody that you sang?
I wish I knew, and I'm so sorry. I'm really failing on the attribution score today. I don't know. Someone may know this. I found it on the internet, but it didn't say who wrote it. Yes, Sarah Gershuni, I think, sings it. I think she's Rabbi Sarah Gershuni out in Colorado. I don't know if it's a Shefa Gold tune. It does sound like that. Hi, Lisa. Yeah, someone may know. And again, we should have some like follow-up pages for attribution on the IJS site.
Yeah. We'll funnel it to Mark, and you can come back tomorrow and find out. We'll get the answer. So, all right, I'm gonna put a close on us there. Nancy, thank you so much. Thank you for honoring us with this sit, and thank you to our board members who are cycling off for their extraordinary service, and thank you all for being here and for practicing with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.